I am Derrick Day, and he is
I am Aaron Tomlinson. Great to be with you again, Derek.
good to be with you too, man. I am excited, and let me just say this. Let me clear the decks just for the sake of housekeeping, right? We all know what happened this week, right? That's the elephant in the room. We all know about that. We're not going to talk about that tonight, though. We're absolutely not going to talk about that. Now, we may talk about that a little bit later in a different context, but not in the context of Freology, because the purpose of Freology Friday is what, Aaron?
To get drunk? No, wait. to
Growing in real time.
growing in real time. Yes, yes. While we drink. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, and listen, while you're drinking, you're actually growing your liver in real time too. So,
Yeah, that's true. True. So what you got in the glass? It looks interesting.
so I have something that's really cool. I started off with a base of Mount Gay Eclipse rum and added a little Kahlua to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Pièce de Resistance,
Ah,
some Bird Dog chocolate whiskey. And I'm going to tell you something. This is one for the book. I mean, because
I'll have to try it.
this is absolutely fucking amazing.
I'll have to try it. So I am simply drinking Chardonnay de Bottle.
Chardonnay de Bateau.
Chardonnay from de Bottle.
Okay, so Maya, I know you're watching, and I didn't tell him what the joke is.
Yeah, he just said
I
it.
just told him to say Chardonnay de Bateau because you would get it. But
What's our,
anyway,
what's our topic tonight, Derek?
man, there was something that it dawned on me that we haven't actually talked about this, and that is vision and dreams. And what is the difference between a vision and a dream? And I thought about this. I really thought about this. I said, what? How important are visions and dreams to you as an individual in your wholeness? Because I think that if you aren't experiencing visions and dreams in your life, I think that you're living beneath your privilege as a human being. And so I thought that just to be as far away from the elephant in the room as possible, I thought that this would be a good topic because I don't think that we've actually taken this on specifically.
Right.
But that is, I'll leave it to you to, give your thoughts on it, and then we'll just dive on in, man.
Yeah. So when you text me the the topic, I was like, okay, visions and dreams in what context?
Yeah.
Are we talking about future goals and that kind of thing?
Hmm.
To go back to our old selves, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yep.
Um, or are we talking about actual visions and dreams? What goes on in our psyche at that level? And you came back to me with both.
Both.
And they do definitely relate. But the way you set this up, if you're not experiencing that part of you, there is something lacking. Now, I've done some research on this, the whole concept of visions and dreams and what we might call the deep mind or the subconscious mind generally tends to think in imagery and symbol and metaphor and things like that. Or, some people could say right side of the brain thinks more visually and symbolically, left side of the brain thinks more rationally, logically, verbally, and in language and stuff like that. So it is interesting. Andrew Huberman did a podcast a while back where he talked with some of his colleagues. I think it was one of his colleagues at Stanford that teaches at Stanford. And they were talking about the importance to creativity and problem solving of tapping into that stream of consciousness. So people probably don't realize this, but most of us, there are always exceptions to the rule, but most of us, the vast majority of us, are dreaming all the time.
Hmm.
We're just not aware of everything that goes on inside of us. I was watching, because of the elephant in the room, and this is as close as I'll get to it tonight, I was watching an interview with Michael Cohen. and he talked about being in solitary confinement for whatever it was, 51 days or 55, whatever the number was, I forget
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And he talked about having to be alone with your own thoughts for that long of a period of time, and how life-changing that was for him. And so I've been thinking about that, because he said this, Derrick. He said, I had to be alone in my own head for, all this time I was in solitary confinement. And he said, for most people, that's not a fun place to be.
Mm.
And so the point of me bringing that out is that we have this stream of consciousness of imagery that goes on all the time inside of us.
Yep.
And the reason it shows up in our dreams is because when we go to sleep, those conscious functions of our thoughts, feelings, reactions, responses, and obviously we're completely shut down to the physical world around us while we're sleeping. So we kind of take a deep dive into that stream of consciousness that's always going on all the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So Carl Jung probably famously was one of the first people to bring this out. He wrote a book, I think it was his book, The Red Book, where that was just kind of his journal of his own interaction with that stream of consciousness where he was dreaming. But then other researchers have come along and said that being able to tap into that, being able to take some time where you shut out what's around you and you allow that visual imagery, symbolic, metaphoric type of stream of consciousness come to the surface consciously, that it opens pathways in the brain for greater levels of problem solving and creativity and stuff like that. So the two really do kind of go together, that we have this capacity that we're always doing but not always conscious of visioning or dreaming. And research shows that also can help us to create things in our life that we didn't have before, right? Because you can't reach a dream. If it's a dream or a vision, we're thinking about it in terms of a goal. Like, I have a vision for my life to do this, or I have a dream that one day I'll be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it's a vision or a dream is you haven't done it yet. You're not there yet. It's just a potential possibility. It's a potential future reality for you. And so it requires then a change in something that we're doing, some way that we're thinking, some way that we're feeling, some way that we're acting, in order to be able to get from where we are now to where we're dreaming or desiring. I saw that Benny put in there, including desire, something we desire to have. If we desire to have it, we don't have it yet. And so this creative process, so the two really can go hand in hand together. So that's how I would lay it out.
Yeah, and I used to think about this like a vision. A vision is sort of a map for how to get from here to there, right? And then a dream is sort of the inception of the vision. In other words, I've always associated dreams with subconscious and visions with conscious. That was always the way I looked at it. And I could be wrong. Not saying that that's right, but that's the way I've always looked at it. And then goals are the waypoints along the destination.
I like that.
How you track your your progress. And I want to go back to something that you said last week, and you've said it before, that the map is not the territory, right? That the map shows you how to negotiate or navigate the territory, but it's not the territory itself. So when we start talking about vision is how we negotiate the territory or the terrain of life, right? And a dream is what that end state looks like, or what each waypoint. Basically, the dream is the articulation of the goal. That's why I've always said that when you can't just be a dreamer, you have to be a doer, and being a doer means having goals. It says that I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how I'm going to turn my dream into reality. And one of the things I want to talk about is like the difference between dreamers and visionaries. The difference between dreamers and visionaries, because I think that they are different. Dreamers are very idealized. very romanticized.
Hmm.
You have a dream of what an ideal situation would look like, what your ideal mate would look like, or your ideal business situation, or your ideal career. But a visionary says, okay, this this is something. This is where I'm going. This is, again, it's the map of the territory.
Hmm.
So I think that we need to first unpack the difference between visionaries and dreamers, and why and let me just say this to everybody that's listening. I think that it is important that you have a little bit of both in your life, because you'll have people who say I'm a visionary, or you'll have people that say, they'll say Aaron's a visionary or Derrick's a visionary, and all of that may be true, but at the same time you have to have some dream, you have to have some romanticized, idealized, what the utopian version of this looks like. And you have to have that, because so let me say this, you have to have this utopian viewpoint, but you also have to be a realist, and by being a realist, I don't mean introducing pessimism to balance it out. You just have to say, okay, what is really in my wheelhouse? What am I capable of? Or what is possible given this set of circumstances, this set of tools, this set of partnerships, right? So the difference between a visionary and a dreamer, that's my take on it, Aaron. I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah. So this is where my mind goes. If there's one thing I've learned from phreology, we talk about growing in real time.
Mhm.
There's one thing I've learned from our interactions and from phreology and this process that we've been on the last, what has it been, 4 years?
It'll be 4 years in July, man.
Yeah. Is that real freedom requires an inside out approach to some extent.
Mm.
And so whether we're talking about dreams and visions as a function of something that we might experience subjectively, or we're talking about our ideal future, our more structured, so like the dream is the ideal, right? I'm just dreaming someday I'm going to be living in the Hawaiian Islands, uh,
Mhm.
taking it easy, making tons of cash every month. That's a dream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A vision might be, I want to build a platform on social media or something where I could quit my day job, and I'm taking these steps to move towards that vision. But in both cases, that's something that's motivated from in here. That's not it's not being reactionary. And so living from the inside out is basically, the way I would put it is like this. The locus of control, that's what they call it in psychology, but
Yep.
the sense of power, the locus of control, is it outside of me and I'm at effect? In other words, everything that's going on in my life, I'm just the effect of all these other causes. And that is classic victim mentality. Now, I'm not talking about victim blaming. That's something totally different.
Hmm.
But whenever someone is always playing the victim, there's a difference between playing a victim and being a victim. So if every word that comes out of someone's mouth, or 75% of their talk, is victim language, I had no control over this, I had no control over that, I had no control over this, I'm
Right.
just here because of all this stuff that happened to me, then you know that they are not putting themselves at cause at all. They're just the effect of everything that goes on around them. And when it's in our worst moments in our lives where we screw up or whatever, that's really, really hard we want to push that locus of control away from us. That wasn't me, that wasn't the real me, that was the effect of this, that, and the other thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, but to have real freedom is to have the ability to act in your life in a way that has influential or powerful effects towards changing your life or moving you towards those dreams, those visions, or those desires. And those desires have to come from you. Other people may be like, I don't want anything to do with Hawaiian Islands, or, I like it cold. I want to live in Norway, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very much a personal thing that's coming from within, that says, okay, now I can take some action. I can do something that's causing me to move through the world as a agent of cause rather than the result of a cause and as an effect. if that makes sense. And I think it's important that we talk about this. And again, just dancing a little bit around the elephant in the room. But I've been doing a lot of therapy with almost all my clients to talk about how our choices, let's put it that way. I heard somebody say it this way: we got a choice this November between two movies. One is Weekend at Bernie's, and the other one is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh my God, that's good.
And neither one's a great choice. And and sorry, I'm not trying to get political with it, but I think a lot of Americans feel that way. I think we feel like, why can't there be younger, more inspiring candidates on the scene or whatever? And so it can feel like we have very little control. We can't control inflation. We can't control the political arena. We can't control how people are responding to what's going on in situations. We can't control how fast change is coming at us with the introduction of AI and all this new stuff that's coming at us. We have no control over any of that. We can't control the prices at the gas pump. We can't control the prices at the grocery store. I ate at a fast food restaurant yesterday with my son, and it was $35 just for the two of us. I about passed out.
Yeah.
And I noticed today, this is classic Freeology Friday stuff, but I noticed today, like, my toilet paper has gotten thinner. Like,
You know what, dude? That's called shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation has really gone to another level when you got to use like 10 times more toilet paper than before, or so there's so many things. My point is, there are so many things in our lives that we cannot control, that maybe more than any other time period in our lifetime, people feel like they don't have power. They don't feel like they can be agents of change over their own lives. And we're dealing at a time period, in my opinion, that is so unprecedented that entire history books, entire historical documentaries, hundreds and thousands of them, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, are going to be focused on the time period in which we're living.
Yep.
I think it's that important. I also think it's that stressful. So I think it's really good that we're talking about this tonight, and talking about how can we operate with a locus of control and move towards dreams, visions, and desires in spite of all the other factors that we can't control that seem to be working against us. So that was quite a monologue there, but
No, dude, that's excellent. I'm glad that you incorporated the desire part, because Benny Schapp had mentioned in the comments about vision, dreams, and desires.
Right.
And I think that you said something about locus of control, and you've mentioned this before, and I piggybacked on that, because life is what has Stephen Covey said, 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
Right.
So when we talk about vision and dreams, and this is why visions and dreams are so important, because if you don't have a dream, an overarching theme for your life, and vision that says, okay, this is how I'm going to navigate the terrain to bring this dream to pass. If you don't have that, basically what you're doing is you're ceding your locus of control to someone else.
Right.
You're saying, and at the end of the day, yes, there's a shit ton of things that we have no control over, like the price of eggs, for example. We have no control over that. The price of gasoline, we have no control over that. But we do have 100% of control how we react to it. So let's just say the price of eggs. And I want to talk about eggs for a minute, because eggs have defied the economic model, right? Because like gasoline, the price of gasoline keeps going up. It'll go down a little bit, but then it goes up some more, and it goes down a little bit. And that's called boiling the frog, right?
Yeah.
Getting you used to a higher price point. And there are actually CEOs. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, said something to the effect that higher prices are good and people are going to get used to them. Okay, which I think is bullshit. But eggs have violated this constraint, because the price has gone way up, and the prices come way back down. I don't know what it is, what's special about eggs, but let me digress. Uh, because the thing is that we're talking about locus of control. What do I have control over? Number one, you have control over your reaction to your thoughts. Now, I notice I said reaction to your thoughts because thoughts pop into your head.
Right.
You literally have no control over your thoughts. Anybody that says control your thoughts, become a Zen master,
Exactly right.
bullshit. It doesn't work. Thoughts pop into your head. Thoughts,
Exactly.
they just pop up. And you have no control over that. But what you do have control over is how you react to that thought. What is your reaction?
Hmm.
So, number one, if my thought does not resonate with my dream, which is my paradigm, my overall philosophy, let's align dreams with core values.
Okay.
Okay, if my thoughts don't align with my dreams, which my dreams are driven by my core values, then I have to to use a biblical term, take that thought captive and bring it to the obedience of myself.
Hmm.
Okay. The second thing, vision is the map, is how I'm negotiating the territory, how I'm negotiating the terrain. If my vision doesn't align with my core values, then I have to adjust my vision. I have to change my vision. That or let's just say that my vision may not make sense in this context. My vision may be a divide by zero in this context because it's not aligned with who I am. It's not aligned with my why. It's not aligned with anything that's central to me. So what I'm saying is that we have to basically like okay, we need to be visionaries. We need to be dreamers. Even if okay, there are some people that are visionaries or dreamers in a macro sense. People like that, like Will Rogers or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. These are people that are visionaries in a macro sense.
Hmm.
We're not all going to be that, and that's okay. You know, because people say, "Well, I can't be a visionary," but you can be a visionary, and you can be a leader over yourself,
Hmm.
over the things that you have control over. So step one is to first identify, okay, what's going on around me, surveying the terrain. What is happening? The elephant in the room. Again,
Right.
how do I react to that? And let me just say that from somebody that sits in the seats where we do, it's easy to be jubilant.
Right.
But that may not be resonant with our core values or what our particular direction is. So again, you might say, okay, well, I'm really happy about this, but is that central to my core values? And if it isn't, then you have to say, okay, maybe that's not the direction I want to allow my mind to go into. But again, it's like, okay, so dreams. If people say, "Oh, well, you're just a dreamer." Have you ever heard that? And I know you've heard that before. I know you have. I've heard that before. People say, "Oh, well, you just have just an idealized version of things or an idealized approach to things."
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer, and yes, I do have an idealized and a romanticized notion of things. Okay, does that mean that I'm given over to that, and that if I don't achieve that specifically, that I just check out? No. What I do is I adjust my vision to my dream, and so if my romanticized, idealized notion is not this is not a word, but I'm going to make it a word. Realizable. If it's not realizable, then I have to say, okay, what do I do to adjust my vision to make my dream realizable? Okay, so then again, I'm making my dream. My dream is aligned with my core values. My vision is aligned with my dream. Now I can make this. I can make this happen. But what happens is that people say, oh, well, you're just a dreamer. You're just a dreamer. And I'm going to tell you something. When you hear this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends of all ages, you may get discouraged. Because when people say, "Oh, well, you're just a dreamer," and this is what you're thinking about, this can't possibly come to pass. This can't happen. Okay, maybe it may not happen in conventional framework. It may not happen in the way people think that it should happen. But this is not to say that you should dismiss it altogether. And one of the things that I want to say is that when you have a dream, hold on to your dream. Hold on to your dream. It may take tweaking, it may need adjusting, but hold on to your dream. And when you're executing a vision or trying to bring a vision to pass, uh, understand that it may not look exactly like you want it to,
Mhm.
but it's still in the realm of the doable. It's still in the realm of the possible. And don't give up. One of the things that I think that's a tragedy for many of us is that we have dreams, we have hopes, we have visions, we have desires, Benny. At what point, let me just, I'm going to throw this out to the audience. At what point do you punt? Or do you develop some tenacity and say, okay, it may not be exactly like this, but I'm going to hold on. I'm going to hold on because what I'm dreaming is good,
Mhm.
and what I'm visualizing is positive. So I'm going to hold on to this, and I'm going to work on this, and I'm going to try to do what I can do to bring this to pass.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's my soapbox for the
No,
morning.
I think so. I think it's interesting because you bring up, like, do I punt on this dream? So I will say this: I was a non-quitter to a fault.
Yeah, me
There,
too.
there were things that I should have quit, people I should have quit a lot sooner than I did. But my sense of tenacity and perseverance, uh, I took it too far. But you also talked about values, and I think that's so important. I would almost see values like the guardrails on this, or really maybe even the train itself is our values. Um, and it's funny because I was having a conversation yesterday with my son about this very topic, because our values are going to guide our dreams and our visions, but we have to really be clear on what those values are without value judging ourselves.
Mm.
Let's just say that again. We need to be clear on what our values are without value judging ourselves. Um, so there's no wrong value, and there's no value that's better than another one. And I'll unpack this for people. But there are legitimate modes of transportation to fulfilling those values or living those values, and there are illegitimate modes of transportation to fulfilling those values. So, just share a little bit of insight from the conversation I had with my son. We were just talking, and things are tighter, obviously, talking about that, and so money doesn't go as far, income is limited, things like that. So you have to make choices, and every time you spend $1, you're making a value choice. Literally, is this? I'm taking the value of what I have in terms of dollars, in terms of what I've earned through my time or my brilliance or whatever contribution I'm making.
And you are brilliant, by the way. You are fucking brilliant.
Thank
Just
you.
throwing that out there, man.
Yeah, that's why I do this. I get my weekly dose of encouragement. Um, so you're making those choices. And so I asked him this question. I said, would you rather, like playing that game, would you rather, if you had this amount of money to spend. Would you rather spend it on a vacation? And I picked some places that I know he wants to go that would be expensive. Or would you rather buy some toys? And I picked out some toys. His birthday's coming up, some things that he's asking for. So, for example, would you rather just go back to Hawaii, would you rather take a vacation to Hawaii for 2 weeks and do all kinds of fun stuff there? Or would you rather have an ATV or jet skis or something like that?
Yeah.
Because you can, and I don't know, I'm pulling it out of the air, but I'm figuring the costs are about the same or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And without even thinking, he said, "Oh, Dad, I would rather have the experience. He said, I'm not into collecting material things. He said, I want to experience the world. I want to have adventure. I want to have experiences." So he identified his values,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
If he'd have said toys, that's not wrong either.
No, not at all.
And so but people will value judge you. Well, I can't believe they spent all that money on, just wasting it on 2 weeks in Hawaii, living in luxury, and then they come back to, driving an old clunker of a car or whatever. not that you do, but you get the point. Or, they bought that toy when they could have been, spending time together as a family. We have a tendency to do that to one another,
Yep.
right? We project our values onto other people and value judge them. So, and then I brought the conversation back to him and I said, well, a different way to look at this is if you have the toy, you can have that experience multiple times over. You go and spend this money on vacation for 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks and then it's done. It's over. That money's gone.
Yep.
You buy this toy over here. You can experience that every day during the summer or something and have good experiences. And he said, yeah. And this was his answer. And again, there's no right or wrong here. This was just his answer. I was trying to solicit what were his values. And he says, but people tend to get bored with the same experience over and over again. He said, I would get bored with it. So he said, I would have the toy and it'd be really fun for a couple of months. And then it would just be gathering dust in the corner of the garage or on the property or something somewhere.
That's a very good way of looking at it.
I thought it was a really great conversation to have with my soon-to-be 14-year-old. But I think it fits into this conversation with everything that you were saying about values, but then also giving up or not giving up on our dreams depends on how much you value the dream. Like, is the juice worth the squeeze, in other words?
Ooh.
And there are times that it's not. And when it's not, it's time to put away the lemons, or the oranges or whatever kind of juice you're getting. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all of these choices can be governed by our values. And then the last thing I would say is we need to go even deeper and ask ourselves, why do I want that? In other words, if I have the new experience, what does that give me that's even more important than the experience itself? So to use a wild example, say there's legitimate, illegitimate means. Somebody who's hooked on drugs, let's say, someone who's got a substance use disorder. We talked about our livers growing in real time. What's the value there? Well, it could be, I want to feel better. It could be, I want to experience pleasure. It could be, I want to avoid painful, traumatic memories. It could be, I saw Jimmy said, that he loves spending time in his own head. It could be that I don't like spending time in my own head and it takes me out of my own head. So the outcome, is more important than the means that I'm using to get to that outcome. I just want to feel better. I just don't want to hurt anymore. I just want to experience more pleasure in my life.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it from that perspective, then you can say there are many avenues that you can take to feeling better. There are many avenues you can take to experiencing pleasure. There are many avenues that you can take to getting away from pain, stopping the pain or avoiding the pain or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that's your value, that's what you're after. What the substance gives me that's more important than the substance itself is the escape from pain. What the substance gives me is more important than the substance itself is I'm feeling better. So then when we organize our values that way, or we organize our dreams that way, we're not as locked into a required outcome. We're more locked into a desired outcome.
I like that.
So the last thing I'd say about this is we adopted because we couldn't have kids. We didn't have the money for whatever that thing's called, IVF or
Mhm.
whatever, which isn't a sure thing anyway. So we evaluated our options and we decided to adopt. And we're thrilled with our children. Couldn't love them more if they'd come into our lives the natural way. But if we'd have held on to the required outcome, they have to be our offspring to be our kids. We would have missed out on the fulfillment of our desired outcome.
Mhm.
And we may not have had the resources or the results if we'd have clung to the required outcome that we got by letting go of what we thought were the requirements
Yep.
and holding on to the desirements.
I like the difference between desirements and requirements.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second about desirements versus requirements, because a lot of times we get hung up in our have to do's. You
Yep.
know, what is required? What are the fundamental requirements for life, liberty, happiness? What are the requirements for that? And I think that we lose the desirements, which the desirements are what makes it pleasurable for us to pursue these things.
Right.
And one of the things that I think that when we talk about visions and dreams, we have to discuss the difference between what is required and what is desired.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we really need to unpack that, because I've said this, and this is talking about me, because talking about you guys might piss you off, but I'm talking about me. I have been very good at pursuing money. The pursuit of money has been something that I have been eminently successful at. Being able to produce a certain level of living right smack dab in my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been happy. I haven't been happy. I'm not doing what makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I have sacrificed my desirement
Mm-hmm.
on the altar of my requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I have pursued money because this is the thing that provides the standard of living that myself and my family has become accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
But I have done this at my own expense, because I want to do things that make me happy, that make me feel fulfilled, satisfied, gratified. And I'm not. And this, moment of transparency that I remember years ago when I was doing talk radio. And I'm on the record as saying this: talk radio was the most fun. Well, not at that time, because this phreology has surpassed that. But it's the most fun that I've ever had with my clothes on.
Nice, nice qualifier there.
Okay, so I have I was offered the opportunity years ago, almost 30 years ago, to go into talk radio full time, but it didn't match the income requirements that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took a pass on that. And Aaron, you know me. I'm not the guy that lives in woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the guy that lives in regret. I'm not that guy. But if I had a moment of regret, it's that. I should have said, you know something? Fuck it. Let's go. Let's do this. See where it goes, right? And all I could do is fail, but I chose the safe path to keep following the money. Keep following the money. And the money has been good. I'm not going to decry that. But I've done this at the expense of my own fulfillment. So here's the thing that I'm saying to everybody that's listening is don't sacrifice your desirement on the altar of your requirement. And let me say this is really, really important because, and I think it's really important for the younger people than it is for the older people because once you get, let's say you get past 45, it becomes less easy for you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But for everybody that's listening that's younger than that, and I tell my kids this, I've told Maya's kids this, I've told every young person, do what it is that you love now. Try everything now. Get it out of your system now. Because what happens is that you wake up one day and you're 50 and you have a shit ton of requirements. You have a shit ton of obligations and you can't do the things that you want. So do what it is that you want. Don't sacrifice your desirement on the altar of your requirement. Find what it is find the groove that makes you happy and go do that. Give that a shot. Because here's the thing, it may be that your requirement is your higher calling.
Mm-hmm.
It may be, but you won't know unless you've tried what it is that you're desiring, your desirement. You won't know unless you've given it a shot. You have to give it a shot. So, what I'm saying is that let me say this. You have a dream. This dream is attached to your core value. It's attached to your why. And if you silence that or if you subdue that, right? Then what happens is your why never gets expressed. And ultimately what that will lead to is an unfulfilled life. So this is why why I'm saying this. I said this in the text for this message, for this talk, that why this is important to your wholeness. You have to have a vision for your life that is aligned with the dream for your life. And if you aren't acting on this, then what happens is that you are living an unfulfilled life. You are living beneath your human privilege. You're not doing everything that it is that you could be doing in order to live a complete and full and whole and satisfied life.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all this to say, and this is where I'll kick it back to you. This is a long ass monologue, and I apologize, but your vision and your dreams must be aligned, and this is the important thing, that you literally must be a visionary and a dreamer, at least for your own life. Again, I mentioned earlier that you may be a macro visionary or a macro dreamer. You might be a Martin Luther King Jr. or you might be someone like that who has this big picture vision. But if you're not, that's okay. But you still have to have it for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it for yourself, you're living beneath your privilege as a human. And
I love that. So I would relate to that in a similar way. Conversation that I had recently with my family. This issue between requirements and desirements. I like that.
Aaron, you nailed that, man.
Like life tells us just the way things are supposed to be. Like check the boxes, right? And so my one son's going to be 14 in June. My other son's going to be 13 in September. And this came out of a conversation that I had with one of our mutual friends, but didn't ask permission to share it, so I won't. But is further along in life than I am right now, and pushing up on that retirement age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've shared with you very openly, privately, what my financial goals are, my financial reasons, all that kind of stuff. And I've been really keyed in on that because I've been thinking about future Aaron, future provisions for the family, retirement,
Yep.
for most people, but mine was a little bit more expensive than just retiring. And I have opportunities to really chase that, to really chase those dollars, to make that dream
Mm-hmm.
a reality, right?
Yep.
But that's going to take me away, not just my presence, because it will, from the family right now, but also my energy, my emotional investment. Because the work that I do for a living, it's very emotionally draining, you know. And so there's times when I've met with so many clients, I didn't even know my own name. And then my son wants to talk to me, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I want to be here for you in this moment, but I'm tapped out, man. I mean, my listening meter is overflowing right now. And I'm going to lose my mind if I have to listen to anymore. And so adjusting the plan to say, look, I would rather work less, like I'm retired right now, for, let's say, the next 5 years of our lives, and then work harder or more for 5 of those years that I should be retired.
Yeah.
I'd rather take that time. In other words, I'm going to borrow from that future time that we've been working
and
for,
give it to now.
and I'm going to give it to now, realizing that I may then have to pay the piper at the end of the day. And that was it fits exactly with what you were saying, because I feel like the pressure's off, and I feel like I can live those human privileges right now with the time that I know that I do have, not knowing if the time will be promised down the road anyway. And, when my kids are older and they're gone,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting around lonely anyway, right? So I might as well be doing something. I might as well be listening to other people when, there aren't as many people in my home to listen to
Yeah.
as there is now. Is that making sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. And dude, I quoted that and put it up on the screen to borrow from tomorrow to give to today, because here's the thing: a lot of times what we do is we say, okay, I'll sacrifice today so that tomorrow will be better. But
Yes.
tomorrow's not promised. You don't know what's there. It's like you might be saving up all this money. You might be saving up all of this, capital or whatever, physical or intellectual, that you say, okay, I'm going to use this later.
Exactly.
But this goes back to something that's a consistent theme between you and I, is talking about mindfulness and being in the moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I would rather sacrifice my future for the right now. And I've done that. I've done that on multiple occasions. There are times when I've spent money that, okay, I know tomorrow I have to pay this bill, that bill, I have to do this, that, and the other. But there's something that I can do right now that is of absolute imminent value, right? And so here's the thing about visions and dreams, is that visions speak to the future state,
Right.
right? And one of the things we have to realize is that the vision, what you just said about borrowing from tomorrow to give to today, in other words, I'm borrowing from my vision to give to my dream
Yeah.
in the context of this discussion. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to, I mean, and if you think about this, in the terms of credit and debt, what do we do when we take out a loan, or we utilize our credit, what we're doing is we're borrowing from the future so we can do something right now.
Hmm.
And I think what you just said is really powerful. That we have to borrow from our vision to give to our dreams. That we have to borrow from the future uh, to accelerate or accentuate our mindfulness, our moment, right? And so you were talking about your kids, and you know, okay, do I want a jet ski? Do I want an ATV? Because this jet ski or this ATV is going to help build a memory,
Exactly.
right? That and let's just say something happens and you're not here tomorrow.
Right.
Well, you've made this memory that you know Elijah and Josiah, they have it. They have the
Right.
memory.
Right.
And so what you've done is you have borrowed from, okay, you've borrowed from, man, help me if I'm wrong with this, but you've borrowed from the physical to pay for something spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah. And that took, because it's really drilled into me, and my history. You know why I think the way I do. Um, it really was very counterintuitive to me because you save money, you make sure you take care
Mhm.
of tomorrow,
Yeah,
because if you don't, tomorrow might take care of you.
yeah,
But then you're sacrificing so much today, and then the other thing that can happen is you're so busy chasing that next thing that you never arrive anywhere. You never arrive anywhere in your life where you can just relax, let your guard down, drink in the moment, do like one of my favorite movies of all time, Dead Poet Society. And I can't remember the poet that Robin Williams is quoting, but I will quote Robin Williams quoting the poet, taking time to suck the marrow out of life.
ooh, wow,
And sometimes we get so focused on requirements or even desirements, that future thing that I'm working towards,
hmm,
that we don't take time to be mindful and drink in the moment, and so we never arrive. We never arrive. I mean, I've shared this before, but this memory is just so chiseled into, burned into my brain. We took the boys when they were really little to the Museum of Nature and Science up in Denver, and I'll tell a funny story about that. But they both had different paces. Man, Josiah would just get locked in on one thing and want to stay there and check it out, and Elijah's just like running through, like not barely taking time to look at stuff and trying to look at something. And so I'm with Elijah, and Julie hung back with Josiah.
hmm,
We have different paces too. I'm more in high gear a lot, and she's
yeah,
not. And so that worked. But I'm like chasing him, and I'm like, dude, take time to look at the exhibits. And I had this intuitive thing rise up in me and said, Aaron, that's exactly how you approach life. You're so busy chasing the next goal, you're so busy trying to get to the next exhibit, that you don't take time to really enjoy what you earned from your work in the past. Like you
yeah,
you were working so hard to get here, but now you're so focused on working hard to get there that you can't even enjoy being here.
wow,
You're just like him with life. The way he is in this museum, that's the way you're doing life. And that was such a paradigm shifting moment for me. Now I'll tell you a funny story. uh, we're having to text each other, Julie and I, to see where we're at in the museum and what's going on, because there's so much distance between us. She can't even see us, right?
hmm.
And I get this text, and it says in the text, it comes up, it says, "Your son just broke a fossil." And you know what I
Oh,
text back?
shit.
You know what I text back? Sorry, wrong number.
I think I would have responded was to that with, I hope it was fun.
Yeah, it was just one they had out for kids to touch and play with and stuff. I'm sure they had. It was kind of a junk fossil, but still, it was just funny.
I think about this, and I think about like visions and dreams and why this is so important, right? Because here's the thing, you have to have something, you have to have some guiding principle, some overarching premise that kind of guides your life, right? A north star, if
Yeah,
you will,
yeah,
right? And then you have to have a vision. Okay, how am I following this north star? How am I traversing the territory? How am I getting from here to there? And I really think that a lot of people have been told, and this is where I think religion is provides this great mind fuck, because religion will say, okay, well, you're not a visionary, you know, because what does the scripture say? That your young men will dream visions, and
we all have visions. Old men will dream dreams. Yeah,
old men will dream dreams. Okay, so if you and I think that what happens is that people think they think of the visions and dreams in the macro sense, that it's I have to have this broad vision. I have to help bring God's
right,
vision to pass, or God's dream to pass. Well, what about you? What about you? What is your vision? What is your dream? And here's the other thing. I think that if we don't set aside our own visions and dreams, I think that what happens is that we begin to subordinate ourselves. We begin to think less of ourselves. We think that, okay, I can't, I'm not that guy. I'm not, but the reality is that each and every one of us has to have a vision or a dream for ourselves, for our own lives, for our own aspirations. And this is so when we were talking about the subject for today, I'm really thinking about this because I'm thinking, okay, am I dreaming? And let me say this because we say, am I dreaming? Let me use something very personal. I love Maya. Maya is the love of my life. And sometimes I say to myself, am I dreaming?
mm,
Because this is too good to be true. But the reality is that this is something that actually is in my life. This is actually something that is real in my life. So am I, instead of asking myself, am I dreaming? I should be asking myself, how do I corral and promote or prosecute this dream into a vision that produces a reality?
hmm
And I think that everybody needs to ask themselves that question. You know, instead of asking yourself, like, when things are going so good, because this is the thing, this is the trap that we get caught in, and religion fucks with us about this, because when things are going too good, we're like, okay, is this the devil tempting me? I mean, Aaron, how many times have you dealt with that? I know I have.
hmm
When things are going so good, I'm like, wow,
Dude, you got fireworks going
I
off in the
know, man,
background.
that was crazy.
Especially timing couldn't be more perfectly timed.
Yeah, I mean, am I dreaming, or and the reality is that this is part of what I've dreamed. This is part of what my vision is, and this is for me. This is not for the world, but if I can bring my own vision to pass in my life, then there we go again. Holy
Awesome.
crap.
It's a sign and a wonder, man.
It's God. God is
No, you said
God
that if
is
I can bring
good.
my own dream to pass my own life, and then all of a sudden fireworks, it's beautiful. Perfect.
But if I can bring it to pass for me, then maybe I can show someone else how to bring it to pass for them.
Yeah.
I can be an example. I can be a role model. And that is, anyway,
Yeah, I
that's
think you keep coming back and hitting that point. And so I'm really listening to it and taking it in and paying attention to it. This difference between macro vision of, having a significant impact on a significant number of people is how I would
yeah,
look at that. Or I don't know if we would call it the micro vision. I don't know if I like that term, but you have a vision, and I don't think you use that. But to have a vision for yourself and for your own life. And I think that really needs to be highlighted. I'm glad you keep hitting that point because I think Benny again said in here, religion is the ultimate dream killer. It won't allow certain desires. And so I guess I'm thinking like, what holds you back? What holds us back? What holds people back from going after those things? And one of them could be, well, that's just selfish. I'm just being selfish. Or
let me stop there for just a second, right? Because here's the thing, people will tell you that your dream is selfish, that your vision is selfish when it's just for you. It's not. You absolutely have the right and the responsibility to dream and to envision for yourself. But keep going.
yeah, so what prevents you from pursuing that desire? That's why I brought up at the beginning. We desire what we value, and there's no value that's wrong. Now we can have outside forces. So in other words, there's a lot of shoulds there, right? Well, I should be working harder to provide more for my family right now when they're when what my idea of more is to be around more. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Oh, but I should be doing that. I should be saving for retirement. I shouldn't be going into debt and borrowing from the future, that kind of stuff. I shouldn't want this thing that I want. I think that's a lot of it. I think if we could stop shooting on ourselves and get over that.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you
We
did.
could stop shooting on ourselves and get over that. Then we can begin to find the pathways to a more fulfilling life. But we have to get around these culturally imposed, whether it's, who says it's unpatriotic? Ooh, I'm going to get myself in trouble. Don't want to say that.
No, go ahead and say it.
Who says that a certain posture before the flag is unpatriotic? It might actually be more patriotic to take a knee because you're standing for in your heart what you believe the American dream stands for all people. But oh my God, that's so taboo. You shouldn't have done that. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, these things are culturally imposed on us. So it could be religion, it could be nationalism, it could be patriotism, it could be family imposed. In our family we do this or we don't do this, or I was really drilled into me. You're a Tomlinson, and we do it a certain way.
Yeah.
And I had to get over a lot of that. There's a lot of people that, mid to late 40s, still in my early 50s, still leaving home. Like, it's one thing to leave the roof. It's one thing to leave the church. But did you leave it? Or is it still controlling and dictating your behaviors? We become domesticated.
Yeah.
And so for some of us to be able to live our dreams, we have to not just leave the cage, we have to leave the domesticated behaviors and thoughts and feelings and reactions that we got from being in the cage.
Ooh.
And so for a lot of people, it's just giving themselves permission. It is okay. And that's why I think you keep hitting this. And I think it's so important. It is okay if your desires or dreams are viewed as selfish by someone else. You're still improving the planet because you're making yourself happy.
Exactly.
You're still raising the consciousness. If we need those kind of belief frames that we're doing something uber significant or important, you're still raising the corporate consciousness of humanity by raising your own consciousness. You're improving the quality of life on the planet by improving your own quality of life,
Yep.
making humanity happier, because if nothing else, there's one more happier human being on the planet,
Yep.
even if it's just yourself. I really want to do a whole show on this whole idea of selfishness, because it's so misunderstood. It's so misunderstood. Um, but anyway, I'll leave that. I'll leave that alone.
No, you know, I think that we need to talk about that in more detail. We need to unpack that because I've heard, you know, people say, "Oh, well, you're just being selfish." And let me just say this about that is that when you are being selfish,
There's a thumbs up bubble by your head now, by the way.
what's that?
Just doing crazy stuff. You got a thumbs up bubble that came up by
Oh
your head.
man, this is cool. That- I mean, you know, being selfish in and of itself is not wrong. We have to. I mean, that's why they tell you put the oxygen
Right.
mask on yourself before assisting others. You have to, you know, there's an old Chris Rock joke routine. They said, you know, Mama gets all the great songs, right? But what does Papa get? Papa gets the big piece of chicken. You know, in other words, you know that big piece of chicken is not really a big deal, but it really is because if Papa is nourished enough to provide and protect and to sustain the household, then that big piece of chicken is really a significant thing. In other words, you know, don't diminish that which is good for you.
Well, think about it this way. It's all about where I'm setting my focus and my intention. If my focus and intention is to lead myself to a more fulfilling and happier life, and that upsets you or that hurts you, then who's being selfish? It's different than if I set out to hurt you and upset you.
Yeah.
I'm doing this deliberately to hurt you and upset you. No, I'm taking this action deliberately
Oh,
to improve my quality of life.
listen.
If
Thank
that
you for putting
upsets,
that out there.
if that
Thank you.
upsets you, then who's actually the one being selfish here?
Right. You have the problem, not me.
Right, because I didn't set out to hurt you. I think that's like when we talk about, like there's nothing wrong with selfishness because it has nothing to do with setting out to hurt the other person. Like if I'm doing this from a vengeful place, you made me angry, you made me mad, you hurt my feelings, you offended me, so I'm going to take this action and I'm going to sit back and enjoy watching you suffer.
Right.
That's a totally different thing. That's a
Yeah,
totally different conversation.
it absolutely is.
But we're talking about I'm making changes in my life and moving myself towards a more fulfilled and happier life, and that bothers you. You want to keep me miserable. There's something wrong with that way
Yeah.
of, that's the real selfishness, because now it's you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're getting it, but I feel like I'm not quite hitting the nail on the head.
No, you're absolutely nailing it. You know, and this is something. I mean, you know what my situation is, so you know what I'm going through. But the reality is that if I am doing something, if I'm sacrificing myself on the altar of everyone else's sensibilities, am I really being selfless? Am I really being helpful? Am I really doing something that's elevating the whole circumstance, or am I, you know, killing myself at the expense of others? At the end of the day, I'm going to say this,
No, no,
and
no. I just you're stirring up good thoughts in me. So keep going. I don't want to
no,
interrupt you at all.
at the end of the day, you have to look after your own. And I'm going to say something that I hate this because conservatives say this all the time, but it's enlightened self interest. At some point, you have to protect yourself, preserve yourself, promote yourself, right? and say that this is okay. And the problem is that what people will say, oh well, if you're promoting yourself or protecting yourself at the expense of others, that's not good. No, sometimes it is going to be at the expense of others. And I did this video on my forward live that sometimes, because I used to always say you deserve to be happy, but not at the
There's
expense of others.
thumbs up again.
Did it again.
Wanted you to see it.
So, sometimes I used to always be taught that you deserve to be happy but not at the expense of others, but you absolutely deserve to be happy if it's at the expense of someone who is trying to keep you down or hurt you.
Yeah, and I think what I was going to say is like we have made okay. So you mentioned
Yep.
selfless, and Christianity is a big contributing factor and culprit to this. But we've made that heroic. We've said if
Yep.
you're selfless, you lay your life down for other people, somehow that's heroic. That's a value judgment. Come back to value judgments. Who says that's heroic? Like that's just a more of the domesticated mentality in my mind. And then at the same time, how how do we even know it's at the expense of someone else? What does that even mean? How does that become practical so that I can used to have a mentor that would say, quit speaking in fluff, give me something I can put in a wheelbarrow and take home with me, right?
I like that.
How can I put that in a wheelbarrow and take it home at my expense? Your expense? How? At your expense? How? Because if you need me to show up in your life at a certain way and then I quit showing up in your life in that way and you called that an expense, then you're just using me.
Yeah.
I was an expense to you, which means, okay, well, what does that mean? You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like it's a false, it's completely, frankly, it's bullshit that people use to try to manipulate other people.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
and maybe I'm enabling you if I keep showing up in this way, in a way that's not good or healthy for you. So it may feel like hurt. It may feel painful. It may mess up your little world right now. But at the end of the day, how do you know it's not going to benefit you? How do you know this isn't actually going to move you forward in some kind of positive way? Because apparently you got way too much dependence on me still.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
And if I allow you to maintain that dependence on me, I'm actually harming you by
Wow.
not taking myself out of that equation. As long, I mean, if we're talking about little kids, things like that, but that's not what we're talking about here.
No. Man. I sit up and I think about this and I say, okay, I ask myself, am I doing something to advance the cause, to improve the quality of life for people around me, or am I doing something that is harmful? I mean, literally, that's my lens, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Am I helping or am I harming? And if I'm harming, my first inclination is, how do I stop harming? How do I cut that off? Because at the end of the day, I want to be helpful. Now, if I'm not helpful, at least let me be neutral. At least let me be, neither helpful nor harmful. But I think that what happens is that people don't ask themselves that question. And so when we put this in the context of visions and dreams, we have to ask ourselves, is the dream that I have that represents my core values and the vision that I'm working against to help bring my dream to pass, is this something that's helping people or if it's harming people? And I think that this is something that we all individually need to ask on a regular basis. Benny had mentioned about guardrails earlier. Here's your guardrails, man.
Well, and I think we need to really think through this stuff in reality. So I'll give you an example from my own life. There's a shit ton of people out there that feel like I harmed them when I left the ministry and shut down the church.
Yep.
That was a personal injury to them. That was
Yep.
personal harm to them.
Yep.
Because we did have a good thing going. We did. But and so people say, well, you took away our church or whatever. I'm like, have you driven around town? Have you seen how many other fucking churches there are out there that you could go to? Like,
Sure.
nobody's told you couldn't go to church. I didn't do this to you so you couldn't go to church.
Right.
I did this for me and my family because it was killing us. I didn't take away your ministry. Hell, fuck, go start one.
Yeah.
You got the goods, whatever. Go. You got the people. Go do it. We started with nothing. You can start with nothing.
Sure.
So it's this idea that, oh my God, you really you personally injured us. You personally harmed us. One of the guys that was just coming after me, threatening to sue us for garbage. I mean, my lawyer literally laughed in my face when I said that, they're trying to do this. And he left church he didn't come back for 3 months because I kept rubbing the cat's fur the wrong way. I kept rubbing his cat's fur the wrong way. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't, and it's because I wasn't preaching little miniature summaries of what Fox News was talking about that week and putting a religious stamp of approval on it, put a divine stamp of approval on it. So he got so mad in an uproar that he left for 3 months. Dude, you know how many churches are preaching little mini Fox News messages? There's one on every freaking corner here.
Yeah.
So I didn't take anything away from you. I didn't harm you by making decisions that were beneficial to me. And so I think we have to be careful, especially when we have a sensitive conscience like you and I both have, especially when we have that frame in place that says, am I being helpful or am I being hurtful? But we got to really look at that and say, where's the harm? I remember some lady called me up. This was years before, this was years ago, decades ago. I was senior pastor, and she called me up, and you just, she was just firing mad at me. You've hurt me. Nobody's ever hurt me as bad as you've hurt me. And she's an elderly person in the church. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And she says, oh, you know what you did. And I'm like, no, I genuinely don't have.
You're subtly psychic.
What I did. Oh, yes, you do. That made her even more angry because I think in her mind, like, she was occupying all kinds of space in my head that was not a thing. Because she had left the church and then called me, tell me how bad I'd hurt her and all this stuff. And I'm like, genuinely, I'm like, what? She's like, oh, you really sinned against me. I said, I did? Let's just break this down. Let's just take the 10 Commandments. I said, I didn't steal from you. I didn't take property that wasn't mine. I didn't kill you, clearly, because you're here talking to me. I sure as hell didn't commit adultery with you. I didn't lie to you or about you. But people will come at us with that, and we'll start doing, if we're not careful, we'll start doing this introspection because we're aware that everyone has blind spots, right? And where's the blind spot in me that I'm not seeing? I better fix it. But sometimes we just need to disconnect all that emotional stuff and look at the reality of the situation and say, yeah, okay, you guys are upset. We had a great church. We had built a wonderful community. It came through a lot of hard work from a lot of different people. And you can go take your contributions and your gifts somewhere else and make that a great place.
Yep.
Like, I did not hurt you by removing myself from a situation that was killing me, literally. High blood pressure, all kinds of stuff, the whole 9 yards. Breaking
Yep.
down my family, the whole thing.
And this is the thing that I've really hung my hat on is that there's a difference between hurt and harm.
Hmm.
You know, I may say something that hurts you, but does it cause you any lasting harm? And if it doesn't, go to Lowe's, as Henry Harris would say, buy a ladder and get over it.
But Derek, there are laws against that stuff, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we're going to do something that's really going to cause someone lasting harm. There's legal recourse.
yeah,
Which is why my lawyer was laughing hysterically. She even said, Aaron, there's got to be actual financial harm to somebody. And the fact that you sold a building and shut down the church, like,
yep.
there's no victims in this.
No,
They can't even bring a lawsuit because and I know some felt like, well, we donated. Well, Jesus Christ, we had to keep the lights on.
yeah,
Like, you think your $2,000 donation like lasted longer than a week to keep things going?
right.
I wasn't living a lavish lifestyle at the time.
So
You know,
so let me say this about that, right? For everyone that's watching, is like neither Aaron nor I in ministry were living lavish lifestyles
no,
because
not
of
even close.
anything that anybody gave.
We were both bivocational, as far as I know. I mean, there
Yeah.
was a
I
season
mean,
there where I wasn't,
not
but
not only bivocational, but I think, and this is my opinion, that we both gave more to our ministries than we ever took from them.
for sure, there's no question,
Yeah.
no question.
So the thing is, and again, to bring this into visions and dreams, is that you and I, we've articulated a vision for our ministries, our respective ministries. And people have partnered with that vision
Right?
and they've sown into that vision. Now, does that vision come to pass? I would say 100% yes. 100%. That whatever the vision was that we articulated, that vision did indeed come to pass. Now, as far as dreams go, I don't think that you can sow into a dream.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I'll say, I need to get off this hobby horse. I don't know why I'm doing this. Maybe somebody's watching. Maybe I'm being prophetic, but we we fulfilled our vision.
Yeah.
What I mean by this is, before the pandemic and things got so crazy and stuff got broken that still hasn't been fixed. 2020 broke shit that still ain't been fixed. Um, we had reached that, and I had changed in the last year, 2018, 2019. We had crafted a different vision, and of course people weren't happy about that. I didn't get mad at them and say, oh my God, you're missing God, touch not the Lord's anointed, this is the way to direct. No, I understood. I
Touch
even
not the
remember telling
anointed
people,
and bring my prophets no harm.
yeah, I remember telling people, yeah, you signed up for something completely different. You got on a plane that was going to Atlanta, and we decided all of a sudden, um, we're going to Dallas, but we'll do a pit stop.
Yep.
And if you want to go to Atlanta, here's 5 planes, all in
Yeah.
good shape, that are
Jump
going to
off
Atlanta.
and jump on.
But we're going to Dallas.
Yep.
What you're not going to do is get on the plane to Dallas and then break the cockpit open
Right.
and try to hijack the plane and make it go to Atlanta. And y'all are pissed off
Exactly.
because you wanted this plane to go to Atlanta. You don't want to get on any of those other planes.
Yep.
And then you go out there and try to vilify me in the process. So I don't know why I've never spoken like this publicly. That's why I think maybe somebody's watching.
Well, no, I mean, here's the thing. We're talking about visions and dreams, and vision is how we're going to get from here to there,
Right.
right? So if you tell people, look, you're not going to get on this plane that's going to Dallas and hijack it and say we're going to Denver.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
I mean, to use the analogy, we were on our way to Atlanta, and then we're like, "Oh shit, Atlanta's a shit show. Let's land in Denver." And you guys all want to go there? Go. Cheers. Again, 5, 6 different planes are going to Atlanta. We're going to go to Dallas, and this is why we think Dallas is a great place to go. And if you want to go, great. If you don't want to go, there's no judgment from God. There's no manipulation. There's no lying. There's no, oh well, we'll get to Atlanta eventually. Just hang out while we do a little detour.
It's just God.
So anyway, I need to let that shit go, but hopefully that helps somebody out there.
But so to wrap this up and put a bow on it, basically everyone that's watching, you are the custodian of your vision and your dreams, and you have the right to articulate how the vision according to your dream is manifest. You don't necessarily, let me say this. So, Aaron and I, we have macro vision, macro dreams. Not everybody's going to have that. And if you don't have that, don't trip. Don't, berate yourself because your vision or your dream is not macro to many. But you do have the responsibility and the right to determine what your vision and your dream is for yourself. Now, here's where it gets really crucial. When you understand your vision and your dreams and you begin to articulate and actuate that for yourself, others are going to see that modeled in you, and they are either going to follow your vision and your dream, or they are going to use your vision and your dream as a model for their own. And in either case, it's okay. It's okay. But don't let anyone interrupt your vision or your dream for yourself, for your life, because it doesn't match what their vision or their dream is for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it moving. That's it.
I think that's a great place to land the plane.
Are there any comments that you want to go through?
I've kind of been following them. We've kind of been playing off of them a little bit. I don't see anything.
Yeah, Joe said, I think it could be a mixed bag. Sometimes what benefits some and may help and possibly hurt some is not black and white, is usually gray and nuance. And and Joe, thank you for that. I think that we have done a good job tonight of nuancing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate your comment.
Yeah, I just want to. I don't know why I'm on this hobby horse, but I just want to reinforce. Like, what would it be like to let's just. We think pain is such a bad thing for people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what leprosy is. Leprosy is a nerve disease where you don't feel the pain. You don't think that the flesh is rotting. No, the flesh isn't rotting. You're sleeping, and a rat is gnawing off your nose, and you can't feel the pain.
Dude.
Or you touch a hot stove and you don't know your hands on the hot stove because you can't feel any pain. Pain is a gift. And we look at it, sometimes we hurt people emotionally, we hurt people in various different ways. And because it hurts, oh my God, it's an offense, it's a curse, it's a sin, it's something we did wrong. No, pain is a gift. If we didn't have pain, we'd have leprosy. Joe says I came in late. I'm not coming back at your comment, Joe. I'm coming back at a cultural stronghold that says if someone's actions, and again, I'm not talking about someone that deliberately sets out to hurt you because they're pissed at you, they're offended at you. I'm not talking about that. I'm
Right.
talking about you set your intention to do something that's good for you, and other people then feel hurt by that. That doesn't necessarily mean that pain is bad. That you're taking that action could be, and causing them pain could be a gift of pain that's going to adjust their life in a way that down the road is going to be better for them.
So let me say this, because I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, that there is a distinct and clear delineation between hurt and harm. And sometimes you may say something that is hurtful, but to Aaron's point is that pain is a gift. Because if you don't experience pain, that's just like, how can you say you don't know when to touch a hot stove if you don't experience the pain of it?
You burn your hand off.
Right. So if you don't feel the pain, you put your hand on the hot stove and you just burn your hand up. So your hand is destroyed. It's no more use to you because you have not acknowledged the pain. Pain is a gift. No, harm is not. That's another thing.
Yep, good stuff. I think that's one of the first episodes we did, hurt versus harm. I
It,
remember
it,
that.
it is. It is. It actually is.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us and growing in real time with us. Thanks for your comments and spurring on the discussion. Really appreciate everybody's engagement. Thank you for taking your time to spend with us. And how do we want to close this out now?
Dude, you've already closed it. That
All right.
was it. That
All
was
right,
it.
right on. So peace out, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see
All
you
right.
next week.
Love y'all. Talk to you later.